welcome to Animal Park. I'm Kate Humble.
And I'm Ben Fogle, and this is Longleat Maze. At 2 miles long, it's the longest hedge maze in England.
And there's only one way out. Now, the head gardener here can do the maze in 5 minutes, but one poor unfortunate visitor was stuck in here for over 4.5 hours. I hope that doesn't happen to us.
Me too. While we try to find our way out, here's what's coming up on today's programme.
It's time for the lion cub to venture into the great outdoors. If only she wasn't such a scaredy cat.
Dung beetles love dung, so why is the one named Hercules turning his nose up at the stuff?
And the otter pups would be ready for their first solid food, except that Mum keeps scoffing the lot.
But first, we're going up to the lion house because it's an important day for Kabir's pride. Both of his 2 females each have 1 cub. Luna's baby is now 6 weeks old and has been named Jazeera, which means bold in Swahili. Yendi's cub is older by 8 weeks and also has an African name, Malaika, which means angel. While the cubs were very young, the whole family was kept inside the lion house. And for safety's sake, they've been isolated from each other. But now Malaika is finally old enough to go outside for the first time. It's going to be quite an experience, though keeper Bob Trollope knows it's a stage that must be carefully managed.
Initially, what I want to do is just let Mum and Cub out, keep the others in, just so basically Mum can get used to going back out and Cubby can see the big wide world for the first time. In the worst scenario, I suppose Malaika could panic and run off and just not get lost because we know where she is, but not be in contact with Mum. So this is the moment of truth. We'll see if they want to go out. Startled her a little bit. Go on, darling. Oh, yeah. That's it, Mum's out. You're supposed to go with her, darling. That's it, call her. Go on. Oh, what's that? Oh. So this is the first view she's ever had of being outside, so... This is a big step to take for the poor little thing, it's a big wide world out there. She's got to step on grass, which she's never ever done before, so anything that she can see or hear is totally new. Those noises sound to us really pitiful, but they're designed just to get Mum's attention.
Mum is less than 20 metres away, just waiting patiently.
She's got up, so possibly any day now she'll walk out. There she goes. That's it. She's out into the big wide world. Good girl. Good girl.
But Malaika is unsure and retreats back to the safety of home. Yendi is starting to give up hope. But hold on, here she comes again.
You're going in and out a bit more often now, so what I think I might do is shut this a bit so that all she can do now is wait for Mum. Come on, darling.
Trapped outside, Malaika finally makes a move, but in an unlikely direction.
Don't go up there. There's nothing up there for you. You can't get out that way. That's the door. Go on, out. We wander off so that Mum can't see us too near to the cub, then she'll more likely come and get... That's it, good girl. Cubby's coming down. Yeah, reunited. There they are. So you excited now? Mum's just checking her over. She's too big to pick up. That's what we wanted to see 10 minutes ago.
This is the first time that Malika has experienced open space, seen trees and felt grass.
It's looking great. It took a little while, but this is how you would expect them to be now. Cubby getting a little bit brave and wandering off, and Mum sort of getting it back in line. This is one of these moments where you know, it's a memory forever, because it's the first time there, and it's so nice to see them actually out and about, running about the grass and finding new things to explore and to get into.
The next stage will be to introduce Malika to her dad, Kabir, out in the open. So far, they've been kept in separate pens, because male lions have been known to kill newborn cubs.
Over the next few days, they'll be going out on their own. Then we will incorporate Kabir. I can't see a problem, but you've always got to have that in the back of your mind. I should imagine Kabir will be pestered like no one's business by Malika, which is all a good thing. It's just how he reacts to it. It's going to be a few more nail-biting moments, I think.
Down by Pet's Corner, part of the stable block has been developed into Old Joe's Mine. The subterranean theme means this is the perfect place to exhibit nocturnal animals like bats. But now I've heard they've taken the idea a step further.
I'm in Old Joe's mine with Old Joe Hawthorne. I couldn't resist that, I'm sorry. Now, you've been doing an enormous amount of work in here over the winter, haven't you?
We have. We've got lots of extra things, creatures we've added in to make it a bit more exciting and more of an underground creature type of thing.
Now, what's going on in here? Because this is completely new.
Right. Well, a few clues, lots of branches.
Yeah.
You know, a nice secure kind of enclosure so that whatever's going in here can't escape.
Right.
And something which years ago would have stayed down in the mines to keep the miners safe and company.
OK, well, you've got some other things down here.
Yeah.
Welly boots.
We have.
Is that going in there?
Yeah, that's a bit of decoration just to give you a clue of, you know, the kind of environment that these birds would have been in.
Ah, birds. You let it
out of the bag.
Birds. So birds that live in mines.
Yeah.
I can't think what that would be. Shall I give you that one as well?
Thank you.
Birds that live in mines.
Yeah.
Go on then, you're going to have to enlighten me.
OK, right. Well, since way back, since 1911, believe it or not, the coal miners that used to go down, you know, in the pits deep underground, thousands of feet, used to take canaries with them down into the mine.
Of course they do.
And obviously this was simply because they actually detected gases that humans can't.
Right.
One of them being carbon monoxide, which is colourless, odourless and tasteless. Yet the canaries would pick up on that. So show signs of, you know, stress that they kind of, you know, they could feel this in the air. And they'd actually, the miners would actually be able to tell from that, and they'd take them back out and be safe.
Wow. So where are the canaries?
Right, well, we've got them in their little home over there.
Oh, yeah. Shall I bring it over?
Waiting to come into their new one.
Here you are. They're so pretty, aren't they?
They are.
Aren't they gorgeous?
And they sing the most lovely song, especially the male there, so...
Which one's the male and which... Are they both male?
The male's actually got the dark ring around his neck there.
Oh, yeah.
You can see.
Yeah.
Obviously, this little girl here, she's the female.
Wow. So this is the first time they're going into
First
their
time
new
they're going
enclosure?
into their new home, yeah.
Right. And now, this is going to be a bit of a juggle, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Best thing is to put them down in there on the floor, I think.
OK.
And just unlatch the top of the cage.
Right.
And then hopefully they should flutter up onto their new branches.
Let's see how they like their new home. They say, we love this cage. We're not sure about that
Actually,
big
maybe
space.
if we tip it up onto its side and they can actually see
Shall I
that...
tip it?
Yeah,
Shall I tip it that
that's
way?
fine.
Let's see it.
That's
they'll
OK.
Go out there. Shall we
That's
back
it.
away and see
And
if
hopefully they should come out.
they come out? They're incredibly pretty. So people, when they come into the mine...
Hopefully they'll greet them and they'll give a little whistle and a nice kind of greeting as they come in the door.
The first one's ventured out. Oh, they're great. Well, we have got one final touch, haven't we?
Yes.
For the new enclosure. Shall we...
We will.
Shall I hand you that?
Thank you.
There we go.
Right, this is so everyone knows their names.
Go on. Tweety.
Sweetie.
And
There we go. And
enjoy
Pie.
your new enclosure, guys.
are over 400 animals in the safari park that between them consume over 800 tonnes of food a year. Their appetites may vary, but from the biggest animals out in the park to the smallest ones in Pet's Corner, what goes in one end still has to come out the other. Longleat's animals produce a staggering 1,500 tonnes of dung every year, enough to cover a football pitch 50 times over. And that means an awful lot of mucking out. Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner has seen his fair share of filth.
If you imagine this rhino we've got here, this is the young male here, you'll be talking 3 or 4 wheelbarrowfuls per day just from him alone. And we've got giraffes, zebras, camels, lions and coley, monkeys, a whole lot, all mixed together. You get one massive big pile of manure. Every single keeper, they can't escape the mucking out, which is always the sign where all the muck is and the manure and stuff. Every keeper has to end up doing that somewhere along the lines. I mean, the Pet's Corner staff, they've got the smaller manure, but it's harder because it's dustpan and brush. You've got to get in all the nicks and crannies, whereas these lot, it's a lot, but it's a big shovel in a big wheelbarrow and tipped away.
Faced with such a mountain of muck, the keepers sweep and shovel relentlessly. There's no giant loo you can flush it all down, so the safari park have come up with an environmentally friendly solution. Once a week, all the dung in the park is collected from drop-off points and taken to the animal dung equivalent of Everest.
If you can't guess, this is the dung heap. There's, looks like giraffe dung. And that looks like, yeah, that's rhino by the looks of that. And literally, all this area here, and that bar behind us, is all the muck, what goes to the safari park. It's left here to rot down, and eventually, it's all put in a muck spreader and put back on the field to make the grass grow. And you can see, it's good stuff, that is.
In Britain, millions of tonnes of cattle, pig and poultry manure are spread on agricultural land every year. Here on the Longleat estate, farmers like Steve Crossman use something much more exotic.
Well, we spread it on the ground, and it's to replenish all the food that's been taken out of the ground. You know, grass needs to be fed, and all the dung is put on, and it replaces all the bits and pieces that have come out of the ground that the grass is used to make the hay in the summer months. The more organic matters that we can actually put back into the ground, obviously the better. It's cheaper. You know, there is a waste product which is good for the ground, and it's put back in as a good balance.
To complete the environmentally friendly cycle, the hay which grows on this fertilised land is fed back to the safari park animals in the winter. Farmers and keepers may do the recycling here on the estate, but in the wild, there's someone else to do the job. It's the African dung beetle. And for this little fellow, a pile of muck is seventh heaven. In Africa, up to 16,000 beetles have been counted in just one heap of elephant dung. They also mate in it, lay eggs in it, and burrow into the ground, taking it with them. In fact, one dung beetle can bury 250 times its own body weight in a single night, which is the equivalent of an 11-stone man burying 4 bull elephants. Appropriately enough, Pet's Corner called their dung beetle Hercules. But now, tragically, this poor little chap appears to have lost his natural desire for dung.
Old Hercules here. I call him Old Hercules because, in fact, he is an aged beetle, and we've had him a couple of years. We got him from another collection, and he was their last dung beetle they had, and they sort of permanently loaned him to us. We were doing an exhibition here, and they said, when they brought him, they said, he actually eats fruit. And of course, I laughed because I was under the same impression as everybody else here at Longleat. Dung beetles eat dung, everybody knows that. But he's more than happy eating a bit of ripe fruit. So I don't know whether he's an exception, or perhaps it's just because he's a bachelor and he ain't got a girlfriend or something, I don't know. Obviously, this guy, if he was doing his job properly, as we think evolution has said he should be, you can probably see he's designed on his front claw or front forearms, if you want to call it that. He's got special, like, they're not quite pincers, they're more like brushes. And they use them to either push the balls of poo along in some species, or obviously to shovel the poo and get their way through it. It seems all pretty disgusting, but that's what they're designed for. So what I'm proposing to do is just to, you know, settle this once and for all. I'm going to go and get a bit of poo. I'm going to leave the section. I'm going to go up and get some real poo. I know, some rhino poo or something like that. He might push it. He might dig it. He might do something. So it will solve a mystery.
There are few things every self-respecting stately home of any historical importance simply must have. Plenty of ancestors on the walls, the odd ghost or two, and a certain amount of heavy metal.
I'm in the Great Hall, hanging up some of Longleat House's armour with conservator Ken Windus. Now, Ken, the first thing I've really noticed is how heavy all of this stuff is. I mean,
that's right.
What's it made of?
Well, it's straightforward steel, but the breastplate is a lot heavier than the backplate.
OK, so this is obviously a breastplate here.
That's right. They always assume, for some unforeseen reason, that you were going to get attacked from the front.
So where's a backplate, presumably?
That's right. There's a backplate there, but you can see it's very light in construction compared with that.
And I'm surprised that it's so kind of dour and black and not shiny like I imagined armour would always be.
Yeah, shiny armour is just reserved, if you like, for the officers and knights of old, so to speak.
OK.
These were made specifically for the soldiers, and the soldiers were made up of the staff of Longleat at the time, i.e. stable boys and people like that. And probably most of it was made by the local blacksmith.
Right.
Because he was also an armourer as well.
So presumably this is during the Civil War?
Civil War period, yeah.
And if you had been around in the house at that time, would this have been your task
That
as
would
well,
have probably been my helmet, yeah.
That's incredible. So tell me a little bit about the helmet here.
The helmet itself, they're actually called lobsters because of the shape of the...
Oh, so lobsters have a sort of tail at the back to protect them?
Yeah.
Can I put it on to see?
Yeah, by all means.
I'm surprised. It all looks quite small, actually.
I think that people tended to be a lot smaller in those days.
Right.
You know, I really do.
And presumably this was to protect the face
That's
at
right.
the front from swords? What sorts of weapons
spears,
would they have used?
We've had spears in halyards and things like that.
And obviously there's the helmet and we've got the breastplate and backplate. Yeah. This would have been for the arms?
That's the...
Is there a left and a right?
Only one arm, yeah. You see on the display here, we've only got left-handed or left-armed armour, simply because the sword arm was always kept free for
so you would have... So literally you would have worn it on that hand and you'd have swung with your hand?
Yeah, it would have been totally concealing that arm, because that would have been almost defenceless.
To protect the body. And are there any kind of damage to any of the things from...
Yeah, so there's, I mean, what you could believe, if you like, that these are musket ball indentations. So that could have saved somebody's life at some point.
It does. Do you think it's possible?
I like to believe that. Yeah, I like to believe it.
So during the Civil War, where did the house stand? Where were their allegiance?
Well, basically, he was a king's man underneath it all.
Right.
But he did tend to sit on the fence. He did entertain both sides.
This is Lord Thin of the...
That's right. Of course, you had the Woodhouse Castle and you had Hungerford and places like that, and they were totally different armies. You had the royalists, and of course you had the parliamentarians.
So basically, the house sat on the fence and just went where it suited them.
That's right. I mean, he did collect money for the king, and I think if he had to declare which side he was on, I think he would have gone for the king. But he never actually took up arms himself.
And was there ever a risk that the house was going to be plundered? Did they ever have to...
Yes, there was that risk, but what they did is they actually took the valuable stuff away. I mean, there is a story where how true it is, we don't know, but there is a story where they actually took all the silver and actually hid it. And the silver has never been found to this day.
So somewhere in the Longleat estate there could be a big hoard of silver buried.
That's right. I keep looking, but I haven't found it.
What an amazing story. Well, I better get back to hanging. Where do you want this helmet, Ken?
You can hang that one high there.
Up at the top.
It's been a few months now since Babs had to be put to sleep. She was 37 years old, which is a very great age for a southern white rhino, and her arthritis had become very bad. Babs was in constant pain, and there was nothing left that could be done to help. though that was little comfort to keeper Adi Lanfear or Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner.
It's always a tough decision when you've got to put an animal to sleep.
It's the hardest thing I had to do as a keeper, to obviously be there and put her down. It was very hard.
We had left it quite a while, and she'd been on a lot of medication, and it got to the stage where she was having such difficulty getting up in the morning that when we went in one morning, she'd obviously been trying to get up through the night, and she got grazes all over, a big cut under her stomach. You've got to think of quality of life for the rhino. In an ideal world, we'd love to keep her for forever, but you've got to put that to the back of your mind and think of what's best for her.
Babs had come a long way since she was born in South Africa back in 1969. In those days, the white rhino was in danger of being wiped out in the wild by poachers. But Babs came to Britain while still young and arrived at Longleat 13 years ago. She was paired up with a male, Winston, and the hope was that they would breed. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Keeper Kevin Nibbs spent a lot of time watching them together.
She got on very well with Winston. Whenever they went out, you know, they occasionally have a little quarrel, but most of the time she was very chilled out.
No sort of like real romance, but Winston would follow her around everywhere she would go, and sometimes they'd have a little bit of a grump on with each other, a little bit of an argument, but they seemed to got on, yeah.
Babs never had any babies of her own, but when 3 youngsters arrived at Longleat a couple of years ago, it seemed to bring out her maternal instincts.
One of the good things about Babs was she was always sort of semi-calm, and when we got these new ones from South Africa came down, she was just took them around, showed them all the ropes, she led them out, and it was just, you know, it's all that, I can do this, just follow me. She was so useful in that sense, because it all went so smoothly when the young ones came.
They always look to Babs to show the ways, you know, the park, and they follow her around, and there was a bonding there, an attachment.
If something kicked off, Babs was always pretty quiet. She'd calm it down pretty quick. She wouldn't let the others go too far. And if they did, we could always manoeuvre Babs with the tractor really easily.
But one of the most endearing things about Babs was how keen she was on maintaining contact with the keepers.
She liked to be stroked behind the ear. She would come over, and she liked to have her fuss made of.
But now the show must go on as they look after the 4 remaining rhinos. Babs is gone, but she's definitely not forgotten.
Just doing their feeds now, and I was looking around for Babs' feed bucket. I didn't know what you're doing, you know, so we do miss her, and it's still fresh in our minds, obviously, but we'll get over it and move on. These guys, got to keep going for them.
It's a big empty space, and you know the little guys they'll come on, but you know not for a while. It's going to take a long time for it all to sink in and realise she's not going to be there when you open the door.
You never replace Babs. No, you can't replace her.
But time, they say, is the great healer. Now we're going to find out if it's true.
I've come up to the Rhino house to catch up with Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner and Keeper Kevin Nibbs to find out how life has moved on up here since the sad demise of Babs several months ago. Now, that was obviously a pretty awful time up here, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kevin, it was probably one of the first times that you'd had to deal with a situation like that.
Yeah, and like Ian says, it was a terrible decision to make, but ultimately it worked out for the best.
So, moving on though, how are the rhino that are still here?
They've definitely got a lot more confidence.
Do you think they relied on her before?
They tended to follow her around, but now they find their own feet and, you know, go off on their own little adventures.
So who have we got here?
This one's Rosina, so youngest female.
OK. So is that a really obvious thing that you've noticed, this kind of, this increase in confidence?
Yeah, definitely. When
they've grown up a bit, haven't they?
Yeah, that's it.
Because she was maybe keeping them a little bit down.
Well, under her hoof.
Or by babies.
Yeah.
Now they've actually grown up a bit.
Yeah.
And he's started to show a little bit more interest in both of them.
Right.
So hopefully, you know, we should be expecting mating this year.
Oh, really? You think that he might get together with some of them? That's fantastic news. And then further along, moving one more. This is...
This one's Marashi.
Marashi, that's it. I should know by now. And again, that they've all obviously got through it, like you say. So the big question is, what about Winston? Where is he?
Well, we've got Winston out in our paddock area outside. Look.
Right. So why is he out here?
It's a male. You can't have the two males together.
Right.
Two males together, they would fight.
Right.
And obviously one of them would end up in serious injuries.
Now, obviously, Winston and Babs were sort of mates, weren't they? Did you notice him pining for Babs when she was gone?
Maybe maybe for a day or two. He knew something was missing from the house, but after that he just got on with it really.
Normally in the wild, so he's just on his own. They only, they come together for mating and that's it.
Right.
Otherwise they wouldn't mix together.
And I'm sure he's getting a lot of extra attention from all of you.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's getting lots of tickles when we come by. We always give him a pat and everything, so he's loving it actually. And he gets a lot more food now. He gets Babs to share as well. So he's more than happy.
It's all turned out. All turned out good, and life moves on. I suppose that's how it.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thank you very much.
No worries.
Thanks.
I'm out in the deer park with head of section Tim Yo. We're with the red deer, and what do we need to do today, Tim?
Well, Kate, we're out looking to pick up antlers that the stag here has recently cast.
Right, now which one is the stag? Can we see him relatively clearly? It's really difficult now that they're all the same, isn't it?
He's actually got his back to us, I think. At the
wander on. They tend to have kind of thicker, furrier necks, don't they, the stags?
That's right.
Is it this one right in the middle
exactly,
here?
Kate,
He's
yes.
just walking away from us.
You can see that, as you say, that shaggy, more
shaggy
neck.
There he is, looking towards us now. Yeah. So why do they drop them?
Well, the antler is used very much to. Here is one of his antlers here. I mean, you can see this is some impressive looking thing.
Amazing.
And it's a tool. To defend and to sort of fight off other stags. So they do get damaged. I mean, this stag, in actual fact, hasn't had to fight off any other stags because he was put in here on his own, just so that he could breed with the hinds. But because they damage them sometimes in fighting, they need to grow a new set.
So these drop off at this time of year, sort of spring time of year, every year?
Every year, yes. They need to concentrate on feeding themselves up. They've lost a lot of body condition during the rut.
Yeah.
They need to get all that back and get themselves ready for the autumn.
Which is the rut again. So how quickly will the antlers start to grow back?
Do you know, Kate, it's incredibly fast. It really is. I mean, as soon as they cast, very quickly they start to regrow again. They're casting in the early part of March, and by the end of August, you've got this again.
You've got that size, that much growth in a year. That's amazing. There's the other one just there. Let's get the pair and see what they look like, because he must have looked absolutely magnificent.
He certainly did.
And what is it made out of? I mean, is it bone of some sort, or is it?
I think my understanding, it's very similar to bone. It's the nearest thing to bone, I think.
Right.
It's rich in calcium. Often, lots of other animals, when they find these, will get the calcium
sort of chew
out
on
of
them, will they?
Chew them,
I
exactly.
mean, it must take an enormous amount of energy, of feed to grow this every year. I mean, it's the most extraordinary feat. It's like us growing an extra arm every year.
Exactly. It takes a tremendous strain from the entire body, really. I mean, so... now at this moment, I'm feeding these stags that have cast, hoping to get them back in good condition. And of course, we're getting grass growing now, which is really good.
And presumably, after this rut and all this breeding that's gone on, you're going to have some little results soon, are you?
Yes, very much so. I mean, we'll be expecting towards the end of May, beginning of June, we'll be expecting a lot of these hinds, the females here, to be in calf, and what a wonderful time that is.
It really is. Well, these are magnificent, Tim. I suspect there'll be a fight amongst the crew as who gets to take them home.
They'll have to fight me first, Kate,
I'm sure. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm out in the Giraffery with Senior Warden Bev Evans and Longleat's 2 dromedary camels. They're fantastic looking creatures, aren't they?
Yes.
Are you particularly fond of these 2?
Kind of. They, you know, Caroline, especially this one here, can be quite temperamental. But yeah, when they're being friendly, yeah, they're really good.
Are they prone to being particularly grumpy?
Caroline is, yeah. But they get overexcitable as well. They can race around flailing their legs around, so they can be quite dangerous, but not at the moment.
And is it true that they spit at you?
They can do, yeah. But we do find our camels don't generally spit that often. It's more our llamas we have problems with.
The other one is
Vera.
Vera. What about Vera? Does Vera have a unique personality?
She's a little bit more laid back than Caroline. If they're squabbling with each other, it's normally Caroline who starts it off.
Fantastic, Bev. Thank you very much. Here's what's still to come on today's programme.
Will there be skin and hair flying when dad and daughter come face to face for the first time?
We'll meet the rodent who's like a mad cross between a rabbit, a rat, and a goodness knows what.
And the otter pups will have to be quick if they ever want to try something tasty. But first, we're going back up to Lion Country, where it's been a couple of days since young Malika had her first experience of the great outdoors.
Don't go up there. There's nothing up there for you. You can't get out that way.
After a shaky start, she soon began to appreciate the joys of freedom. Now, keeper Bob Trollope wants to go to the next stage, to introduce Malika and her dad, Kabir, face to face. Up to now, for the safety of the cub, they've been kept in separate pens.
What's going to happen now is we're going to actually open the slide up and let Kabir out with them. It's a moment where anything could happen, really, because even though they've been next to each other in the house, when they can actually get to each other, you don't know what's going to happen. You've got to be prepared for the fact that Kabir could kill the cub.
In the wild, the pride male's natural instinct is to kill the cubs of rival males. Kabir has not had a proper chance to bond with Malika, so it's possible that he may not recognise her as his daughter.
Oh, darlings, oh look, you look messy.
If Kabir attacks the cub, her mother Yendi will try to defend her baby. But the male of the species is a fearsome beast.
If Kabir and Yendi did get into a scrap, then obviously Kabir is a big animal. He's much more powerful than her. But at least with Malika out there, she's got something to fight for. So it will give her a bit of spirit. You know, I've seen lionesses see males off several times, but if it got into a thing where they've just locked onto each other and they're fighting, then unfortunately I would put money on him. Are we ready, are we? All right. This is the moment of truth. Everyone ready? All right? Come on, mate. Good boy. Good boy. Can I see your daughter? Hi, Kabir. Come on, mate. I think they all met, but Malika took it out on Mum, and Kabir's just turned around and walked back in. So, no, he's coming back out now. Oh, he does look a bit confused, doesn't he? You know, he obviously isn't too concerned about Malika. No arguments, no scrapping, no untoward sort of behaviour. You know, different animals react different ways, and you know, he's quite laid back. So it obviously has an effect on the rest of the family. If his offspring are going to be as relaxed as him, then you know, I think we've got an easy time with it.
But there are more introductions still to come. Kabir's other daughter, Jazeera, has yet to meet the rest of the family. We'll be there to see that later in the series.
It's a good thing that this isn't smell-o-vision, because there's a powerful pong in the rhino yard. But it's the actual droppings that have brought Head of Pets Corner Darren Beasley here. His African dung beetle, Hercules, has been disdaining dung in favour of fruit. So Darren's hoping to tempt him with something really fresh and full of flavour, if he can get his hands on it.
Hey. No, I do my best to avoid big things like this. He's a good-looking root, isn't he?
Yeah, this is the young boy. These are the 3 we got from South Africa.
Can I touch him?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, isn't that weird? I've come up for some nice droppings, yeah.
Blue Peter Joey, here's one we made earlier, look.
Goodness gracious. Well, I've got me little pot. Do you think I need a bigger pot? Well, I just want a little bit. I'll put some gloves on because I don't do rhino poo normally. Is it safe to lean in and get that?
It's safer up there, yeah, they're fine.
When they're up there?
Absolutely fine with our watch. Electric's off, we switched that off, so...
Can we spoon?
Yeah, you spoon.
You shout me then. Because I'm going to have a little rummage, because I want to make sure there's nothing living in there already. I don't want to introduce any beetles or larvae into my little chap, my little dung beetle. Of course, just like, he hasn't eaten it
Chewed
really.
up grass, really, yeah.
Oh, I can hear him coming, hang on.
Yeah, just breathe in a bit.
Right, mate.
He's come for a stroke, he likes being stroked.
No, he's come to see what I'm doing with his toilet. These guys, obviously, these are the giants of the African plain, yeah? These do all the grazing and all the toilet, and then my little chap, my little dung beetle, he does all the clearing up. And you can imagine, in all seriousness, if this amount of animals, okay, sadly due to poaching there's not many rhinos left, but you think about the zebra and all the antelope, if their toilet wasn't cleaned up, you could just you wouldn't see Africa, would you? Because over millions of years it'd just be a big pile of poo everywhere.
We'll find out later whether Hercules is tempted by Darren's tasty takeaway from the rhino diner.
Not all of the creatures in the safari park have been introduced from far-flung continents. There are some natives of Wiltshire here too. They also need to be encouraged and looked after.
I'm out in Wallaby Wood with Head of Section Andy Hayton, assuming that these peanuts in this feeder are not for wallabies, Andy.
Absolutely not, no. We're trying, and quite successfully actually, bringing in and looking after the more native species as well as all the exotic stuff we have here too.
Fantastic. I mean, Longley has got fantastic birds around here. Yeah. I mean, have you noticed in and around your areas that you look after how many birds there are?
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a lot in here, and we're just trying to give them a little extra helping hand.
So this one is living up?
Just hung up on here.
And I mean, that looks homemade, Andy. Is this a little talent that I didn't know you had?
A little talent with a chainsaw, yeah. We actually made those with chainsaws. And the bird boxes as well that we made, we carved them all out with chainsaws.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, this is a great area for birds and for wildlife. But having the wallabies, I mean, presumably that's not going to bother native species like the birds?
No, absolutely not. In fact, it's probably a bonus because nobody actually comes up this end of the wallaby paddock apart from us. Only last night, actually, Mark Tye told me that he saw a barn owl flying through the giraffe reserve, yeah.
Through here?
Yeah, over the mound, the public area.
How fantastic.
And we've got a resident kestrel as well that quite often sits on the fence and sits in the shelter for the giraffe.
Lots of jackdaw, of course, we can hear all around us.
Steal the monkey food and the wallaby food and everything else.
And we've got Mark Beardshaw up a ladder, one of the keepers here. Hi, Mark. What are you up to?
We're just about to put one of these bird boxes up. We're trying
let's have a look. Another homemade effort.
Yep.
I tell you giraffe boys could set up a cottage industry, I think. Fantastic. Again, built with a chainsaw?
Yeah, built with mine and Andy's fair hands.
Brilliant. So little hole in there. What sort of birds are you hoping are going to be attracted into a box like this with this sort of design?
Primarily, we're trying to get the smaller birds, smaller species such as the tits, the blue tits, great tits, things like that. Because obviously around here the jackdaws have got the monopoly
of the trees.
Yeah.
And are you just feeding peanuts, or are you doing any other mixed feeds?
We're doing peanuts at the moment. But I mean, if it's successful and the more we look into it, we'll start feeding different things to encourage different types of birds in.
Well, and the great thing is, obviously, you know, as spring progresses and birds are breeding, what you need to think about is soft food, things like mealworms and that type of thing, which is much better for chicks rather than the peanuts. So there you are, that's your next task with your chainsaw.
Okay.
Come up with a mealworm feeder. Should we hang this up and see? So have you thought about particularly where you're hanging them on the trees and in the reserve? What sort of considerations do you have?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want the boxes too close together because they do sort of have a territory, especially the robins in the winter.
Yeah.
They will sort of fight if the bird boxes are put too close together.
Yes, they can get quite vicious, actually, robins.
Yeah, they certainly can. So we're putting this on the north face of the tree, out of the prevailing wind, and obviously so the sunshine doesn't hit it too much.
Yeah, so they don't boil.
Yeah, so we don't want it getting too hot in there.
That looks perfect up there. Are you all right holding all that?
I think I will be.
Well, good luck to both of you. I shall be out with my binoculars seeing the results. Mark, Andy, thank you very much indeed.
No problem.
Down in Pet's Corner, the 2 otter pups are now 11 weeks old. Though it's only in the last 3 weeks that they've been coming to play outside, along with Mum and Dad Rosie and Romeo. The babies are growing fast, and the time has come to find out if they're ready for solid food. But here at Longleat, it's been over 30 years since they last had otter pups, so no one's too sure about how to go about it, or what they'd like. It's going to be a case of trial and error, and keeper Rob Savin is going to start with raw meat and peanuts.
I've got some tasty morsels for those. They don't look too tasty to me, but we're going to see what these little ones want to eat. It's obviously the first real time they're going to be accepting proper food now, and we want to see whether they're going to eat on their own, whether one of the parents is going to share with them. I don't think Rosie's much of a sharer, so what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can get her up and out of the way. We put some food down there. Yeah, she's definitely wanting some food over there. And what I'm going to try and do is put some food up here as well. Oh, no, she's found that already. We've got Romeo out of the way, but we'll get Rosie out over there, and hopefully Romeo's going to do a bit of sharing. I've got a little bit of meat. No, she's definitely not sharing her food, which isn't too good, but hopefully Dad will do the honours of that.
Rosie has always been keen on her food, so this is tricky. The pups need to learn to eat, but they'll have to do it before Mum scoffs everything in sight.
It's really going to be a game at the minute just to see what they're eating, who's giving it to them, and how they're getting on with it, because they might struggle with a few things being so little so far, until they get a bit bigger, a bit stronger, and they might start fending the food off of Mum.
This was supposed to be the pups' first meal, but they hardly got a chance to get near it. Rob's going to have to try something else.
What we really want to see is them actually eating the food on their own, fighting off Mum and Dad a little bit and saying, hey, this is mine, I'm gonna eat this. So, trial and error.
Rob's going to have to try to feed them another way. Perhaps he can slow Rosie down long enough for the pups to get at least a taste of something yummy. So, the next morning, before the otters are let out of their house, he's gone into the enclosure with some breakfast.
I like hiding food for the otters. I don't want to hide them too much so the little ones find them, but I want to spread the food around, and especially with something like prawns, it gives them all an opportunity to eat. So hopefully, Mum won't get all the food this time. It's one of their favourites, actually, prawns. They love this. I mean, obviously, they wouldn't necessarily get prawns in the wild. They'd eat a combination of fish, they'd eat a combination of different crustaceans and invertebrates and all sorts of things like that, insects. They love them. They love them. I love them, to be honest. Hopefully, the babies are going to take on straight to it as well. And it's a nice, easy, soft food for them to get their teeth into. As I was hoping for, they all came out, and because there were so many, I could see Mum straight away trying to gather as much as she could and run in. She was thinking, oh my God, there's loads of food, I want it all. But it gave them opportunity because they were spread everywhere, the prawns. They all had a munch. I saw the babies eating, it was fantastic. what I want to try now is really just to see the varieties, make sure they're getting a good variety of food. It's all good and well that I'm having prawns, and it's lovely to see them eating, but we want to make sure they're eating some more substantial things and a big variety of food that we offer them, so that the meat, the chicks, the swan mussels, the eggs, all sorts. And we'll build on this, and hopefully it'll be good. But so far, yeah, I'm really, really happy.
So the pups still have a lot of growing to do, and we'll be following their progress later in the series.
I'm in the Chinchilla House with keeper Bev Allen, and you've got some intriguing looking things in here, Bev, that I wouldn't think of as being classic chinchilla food.
No. What we've got here, we've got cuttlefish, which we give to the chinchillas to chew on, to gnaw on.
Really?
Really good for their teeth, and good calcium as well. So we give that to them, which sometimes they sort of really do like. I don't know if he's going to run away.
Shall I put one over here as well? Over there. And this is the basically the skeleton of a cuttlefish.
It is, yeah, and it's quite soft on this side. And what they do actually like it quite a lot, and they actually just munch away on it, and it keeps the teeth nice and sort of you know, not too long and everything. Yeah. But we also give them branches as well that you can see in the enclosure here.
Right.
You've got to be careful what sort of branches and logs that you do use. Hazel, willow, applewood as well.
Those are good, are they?
Yeah, they're the good ones that we use here. And also hay. They need lots of hay for their teeth as well, because when they're sort of gnawing and chewing, the action of the teeth helps to sort of grind down the teeth. So that's really good for them.
Are they rodents?
They are rodents as such, yes, so the teeth constantly grows. And also they've got to have a strict diet, so we've got the chinchilla pellets.
So these sort of full of special chinchilla type of vitamins and minerals?
That's it, vitamins, minerals, all the nutrients that they need in their diet.
What would they eat in the wild? Because they live in quite what you'd imagine to be quite kind of arid areas with not much in at all. I mean, they do live at the top of mountains, don't they?
They do. They live quite high up in the Andes, and they would actually eat grasses up there, cactus fruits as well. Wow. And actually, they get all their water intake from the dew off the grasses and things like that.
So they don't need very much. I mean, you've got water in here, obviously, but they're not big drinkers.
Not big drinkers as such. You still have to offer them, but they don't actually drink a lot. And also, as a treat, you can give them peanuts, which they like. You can give them a bit of apple and a bit of green food, but not too much, only as a treat now and then.
It makes their tummies go funny,
does
it?
Yeah. We don't want that.
No, you don't. I can't imagine this lot with funny tummies. Wouldn't be fun. I was just looking down here. You've got what looks like a sand pit.
Oh yes, their sand bath. They actually sort of roll in it because they've got such dense fur. Because where they're up in the Andes, it's quite cold, so they need the fur to keep them warm. They don't like water to bath in, so they have the dust to bath in.
So they'll roll about in that, and that basically sort of cleans the fur?
Yeah, it cleans the fur and keeps it all nice and clean. And usually they don't actually get any sort of fleas or anything, because the fur is so dense and everything, they don't like it. So
how amazing.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They are the most hilarious looking creatures, and when they run like that, they're incredibly quick as well, aren't they? And they're very agile across the rocks.
They are. They're quite fast. You can't really hold a chinchilla for too long.
Hang on, I'm going to just stop that one who's chewing a cable. Come on, off the cable. You can't chew that.
That's little man. Yeah, and that's another thing, you've got to be careful about chewing cables. So if you have one at home, you've got to be aware they will chew absolutely anything.
They will chew absolutely everything.
As you can see, they've been chewing the walls as well.
Oh, look, they have. They've been chewing their mural.
Yeah. Anything they can chew, they will chew. So quite destructive animals, really.
They are fantastic, though, and I just love the way they look. They look like a sort of mad cross between a sort of rabbit and a rat and a guinea pig and everything all rolled into one, don't they?
They do.
They're brilliant. Well, Bev, thank you very, very much. It's lovely to see them. Shall we...
Yeah, we'll give them some treats.
Leave those out. Here you are, guys. Thanks for letting us in.
Back in Pet's Corner, Head of Section Darren Beasley is about to serve lunch to his African dung beetle, Hercules. Until now, Hercules has shown a distinct preference for fruit, which is fine from a nutritional point of view. But since these beetles dine on dung in the wild, Darren's offering him what should be a gourmet treat, fresh rhino droppings.
I'm just going to pick him up off his water bowl for a minute. Come on, my old fruit. There we are. I'll leave him on the surface just for a moment. I expect these little tentacles here, these little antennae, they're what's sensing, hopefully, the smell, because this certainly does whiff. So if he's at all interested in this dung, and I'm going to be proved wrong, then he should, if I put some of this down, oh, things I do for these wee beasties. Warm and wet. There we are, my friend. What Hercules should be doing now is he should be racing towards this big pile of damp dung, because obviously he would eat that in the wild. Well, he wouldn't actually eat all the grass fibres and hay fibres. What they do is rather horrible, I'm afraid. They get big mouthfuls and they sort of cham it up and they slurp up the juice of the poo.
I can't imagine why, but Hercules seems to have lost his appetite. In Africa, these beetles not only eat dung, but they also use it as part of a mating ritual, rolling it into balls.
I've got a homemade dung ball here. There we are. And he would make something almost as big as that, actually, for this particular one. And what he would do is he'd rear up and he'd push this around. He'd find himself a lady dung beetle and he'd offer it to her. And if she liked him, she would go off and they would roll the dung off into the sunset and bury it, and that's where they lay their eggs. Oh, well, he's just literally climbing on it now, but I don't think I'm gonna have to watch very closely. I don't think he's gonna eat it. No, he's just walking over the top of it. So what he's doing is it's just an interesting object, so he's just gonna walk on around it, I think. He's not that bothered. At the moment, as you can see here, he's walking away from it. And it does smell. I don't blame him at all. He's trying to get that body as far away from there as possible.
So, despite all Darren's efforts, it looks like Hercules will be sticking with the soft fruit after all. But Darren's hatching a new plan.
It may be, perhaps, because he hasn't got a female to impress. So he's got an alternate food supply in the fresh fruit, but he doesn't want to roll the dung balls because he hasn't got a girlfriend to roll the dung ball too. What we'd like to do now is we'd like to obviously get some more dung beetles, particularly just one really would be good for a start with, to pair up with this old fella. And you never know, if he did roll a ball of dung and he did, dig a hole, or he did eat dung, I suppose, it's interesting to see, it's interesting for us to talk about. So our next stage, hopefully, we're going to get some more dung beetles and make it a bit more interesting, a bit more lively. So we don't have the world's only fruit-eating dung beetle in our collection.
It's the end of the day up here at the Giraffery, and Kate and I have come up to join Head of Section Andy Hayton with a spot of feeding. Yep. What have we actually got in the buckets here?
This is just their veg ration that we give them every evening in winter, just as a nice bit of green food.
This is presumably swede.
Yep, swede. And
how do you know a giraffe likes swede? Is that trial and error?
Because it's all gone in the morning.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. I'll start putting it out.
Can't say fairer than that.
So why do you need to do this? Presumably they're eating grass during the day.
In winter, there's not a lot of grass around. There's no browse, so we supplement their diet with some nice fresh green food, such as cabbage and the swede and everything. In summer, we'll actually knock this feed off.
Right.
And they're grazing out in the parks. We've got such a big area out there, and we're cutting browse for them daily as well.
So why do they have to come in the winter? I mean, wouldn't it be easier just to leave them in the park and take out the supplementary food like this?
There's no goodness in the grass this time of year, really, anyway. It would be lovely to leave them out because we wouldn't have to clean up in the morning. But it's the cold. It's so cold. There's quite a large surface area on a giraffe, obviously, and they lose heat quickly because they're big.
Right.
And it's just too harsh. And it's a security thing as well. If something scares them in the middle of the night out there, even in summer or whatever, we don't know what's going on. When they're in here, they're here, we know where everybody is, and everybody's fine and locked away quite nicely. So it's security for them.
And presumably it's a good chance to check them over as well for any injuries that they might have picked up during the day.
Yeah, you can monitor them, you can have a good look at them in the morning, and if there is food left in here, especially when the ones that are individually boxed, If there's food left,
Yeah.
you know it's left, and you can start looking for things. So you know immediately there's something wrong.
And presumably this is a perfect opportunity to check that each gets an equal amount of food.
Exactly, you can stand back and watch. It's quite nice with these guys because when they actually feed at night, they'll all go and sit down. You'll look in the troughs and there's still a bit of food left. So you know everybody is getting what they need, so they're not eating everything.
And out of curiosity, is there a particularly greedy giraffe amongst this?
Jolly.
Jolly. Oh, Jolly's actually just down at the bottom there.
Jolly's on her own at the moment.
Yeah.
She's in there with a youngster, but yeah, she thinks with her belly, not her brain, Jolly.
I'm going to do a bucket swap and continue pouring this all out.
Yeah, we've got a few more things to feed here, but we'll leave them in peace to enjoy their supper. Andy, thank you very much indeed. Sadly, that's all we've got time for on today's Animal Park, but here's what's coming up on the next programme.
It looks like there's a baby tapir on the way.
Quite honestly, she's showing all the signs now of being pretty imminent. She's got a huge udder.
It's touch and go as Gladys the iguana undergoes radical surgery.
Come on, sweetie, we need you to breathe.
And romance gets hot and heavy for this horny old rhino.
Oh, here we go.
Wow, what a reaction.
That's explosive, isn't it?
Wow.
We'll have all that and more on the next Animal Park.